to Woodturning 150, lesson number 5. Well, this is going to be a fairly short video in terms of the teaching portion. I'm going to also show you how to make some of the accessories that will help you in turning spheres. One thing you want to practice, just freehand turning the shapes and getting the eye-hand coordination going. And that's the whole purpose of this lesson. Practice on the bead cutting, also practice on the eye-hand so that you can see that curve beginning to evolve. It's a good exercise. I came out here yesterday and practiced because I haven't done it for a while. I'm also going to show you some layout techniques that will also help you begin to anticipate the best shapes. But the ultimate joy is in being able to turn small, perfectly round balls just for the fun of it, and all sorts of different sizes and shapes. There are some accessories that you're going to need. You are going to need to be able to have the handout, which is activity 5 in the 150 worksheet. It talks about turning the shapes, the layout, and this technique which utilizes laying out an octagon is described in detail in here. You have to know one little multiplication step. I'll show you that later. There's also some accessories that you're going to have. And basically, we're going to do what's called turning away the shadow. So we're going to need some way to hold the ball in the headstock in different positions while we turn away the shadow. So you're going to need a little fixture. This is one. Here's the second one made out of wood. You can't tell it, but I've coated the top of this with rubber cement. The idea is this has to be able to drive the ball. And then for support on the other end, you need a tailstock support. Here's an old, inexpensive live center that I had where the point got lost. So I just took a piece of wood, cemented it onto the top, and turned a drive. This needs to be able to rotate freely. And that was an easy fix for 10 or 15 bucks. The other thing I did, and I'll show you the steps for doing this, I took my one-way live center system and made a threaded adapter that fits on it that also provides the free drive from this end. Let's get to the lathe. We're going to turn one by freehand, and then we're going to turn a second one using this mathematical layout method, which should simplify it a little bit for you. I'll see you at the lathe. Well, here we are at the lathe. I'm going to start off by suggesting we do an exercise like this, which is simply holding a piece of wood in the headstock and turning the majority of a ball freehand. No other accessories, just by eye. So we're going to try something like that. So for this, I picked up a piece of walnut, which I've roughly squared up, and I'm going to hold it in my forejaw, like so. And for roughing out, for rounding up, I'm going to hold it between centers. Nice and tight. Tailstock in place, lock down. First step is to get it round, for which I'm going to just use the standard spindle roughing gouge. And for the rest of the work, I'm going to use one of my larger shallow fluted gouge, one that has a fairly round nose. The more pointy, the more difficult this activity will be. So if you have one that's fairly rounded, that's the good one to start with. So let's rough out. Speed is down low. We'll bring it up. Just a little roughing out. So we have a cylinder. Next thing I want to do is I want to square this end off a little bit here. It's not really necessary, but it just something I'm going to do. I want to get that hole out of there. I'm going to bring my tailstock out of the way. Take out my live center for safety purposes. Okay, we're ready to get started. First thing I'm going to do is measure the diameter of the piece of wood I have. And I need to transfer that diameter to the length because this is the size of the sphere. So I'm going to mark the length right there. And my diameter is 1.67 inches, so 0.835 would be about halfway. So I also want to mark where the center is, which is right there. So let's transfer those marks all the way around. Center and end. So the sphere is going to happen between here and here. This is going to be the highest point of that sphere. I need those marks to get started. So let's get turning. I'm going to start by working the corner. And this is really eye-hand coordination practice. Here we're back to the bead turning again. So as I approach the center line, I'll be approaching the end. I'm about that far here, and I'm a little bit less there. So I need to know I need to come down farther next cut. So I'm going to bring the tailstock a little closer. You're going to have to wrap all the way around. That means roll the tool. Now, I see that this looks nice, but this is wrong, so I got to come back further, take that corner off. Well, that's a good start. Now let's try the other side. Now I can come down to here like that, or I can actually put a parting cut there to give me more clearance. The clearance allows me to be able to get in here more easily. I'll probably reduce that some more in a couple minutes. So let's do the left side now. Now that's a little egg-shaped on this side, so we'll have to bring that around a little bit more carefully. And right about here, it needs to start coming in faster. So now it's about adjusting Just take a little more off down here, just give me more room. And just for fun, now you can finish this by parting off. But we'll do that in the next one. Because once it's parted off, the little ends to fix. Let me stop and get a drink of water. Oh yeah. Did you know that a bottle cap, if you rolled over the shape of a sphere to determine how the shape is developing? This looks pretty good here. We're off a little bit here. This has to come in more. These round caps, or any circular device that's the right size for your sphere, gives you a chance to check. I'll take a sip while I'm here. You can check the sphericalness. Okay, a little bit more down here. Just a little bit. And we can sand a little bit here. Do a little sanding here. I've got my dust collection in place. It's turned on. And checking it, my lid technique, okay. So that's project number one, and I want you to just try it this way. It gives you a chance to bring your bead all the way around here to the end. What we're now going to do is to do the more classic ways of doing a sphere, which is between centers. So a slight change in setup. Put that over on the bench for later. Establish our diameter. I don't know what it is, doesn't matter. But there it is. So there's our diameter. And the length of this is going to be between this point, that's the diameter. Now where's the center? This is 1.78, 1.39, right? And right there is the center. So let's transfer those marks around. Center, right side, left side. So we're going to do pretty much the same activity we just did. The difference is this time I'm going to take it, cut these two ends off, and we're going to then perfect it by looking at turning away the irregular shadows. So we're back to our shallow fluted gouge. Because it's a thinner tool, the tool rest comes up a bit. Well, here we go. I'm going to create some clearance here first. So here, same activity as before, except we're going to finish it off differently. Now, I can continue to work on this more and do more shaping, but there is another technique, and what I'm going to do is to take this off the lathe, cut these two extensions off, and then install a new accessory that will allow me to position the ball and move it. So I'm going to take this off the lathe, and off camera I'm going to go to the bandsaw and cut these off. Not right up, but I'm going to leave a little bit of material. Be right back. So let's take this off. Knock that out. And I'm going to install on my one-way live center system a new tip. One that has curvature that allow the ball to set in here and pivot. And as I said, I'll show you how I made these things in a little while. Screws all the way on, seats down to the bottom. And in the headstock, I'm going to use a Morris taper drive. Now, I'm going to put the ball on between these two centers, and I want that pencil line to be straight across. Let's bring this up just a little closer, lock it off. Just like that. Now that's me pushing this into the headstock for a better seat. And we're just about right. Okay, so now I'm going to turn these two pieces away. Now, very light cuts here because these are sticking out. Just like in our letter opener, I wasn't looking here where the tool was. I'm looking at the back. And we can see we're off just a little bit, but that'll be okay. It'll clear up just fine. Turn away any of the shadows. This side. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and rotate it to another axis. Maybe here. Retighten it and turn away the shadows. I'm not taking away much wood, so I'm very light cuts. Regular surfaces. And then we're going to loosen it and we're going to rotate it to another axis. And I'll make sure that's centered pretty well. And let's get to some sandpaper. This case I'm going to have to sand it in steps because I've got it between the centers, but we do have sanding here. Sandpaper will be available in a second. Dust collection is on. I think we're using some pretty fine sandpaper here too. There's another sphere. Okay, I've taken another piece of wood, put it between centers, turned it around, and I took the diameter. It turned out to be exactly 2 inches, which makes the math really simple. So here is the diameter transferred to length, and here is the center. Now here's what we have to do that's new. I'm going to take the radius, which is now 1 inch, and I'm going to multiply 1 inch times 0.4. Now it's 414, but forget that. So 1 inch times 0.4 is 0.4 inches. Now what I'm going to do is take my calipers and set it to 0.4. That's close enough. I'm going to mark off that distance on either side of the center line. Either side of the center line. So I'm going to come over here, put a mark, come over here and put a mark. I'm going to transfer those around. Now this is new. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure between these two marks, this distance here. And I'm going to transfer that to the end of our blank. So let's clear the deck here a little bit. And I'm going to turn this down to that number. A couple of cuts to overlap. Okay, good distance to go. Okay, close enough. So now, what I have done is established a whole bunch of lines. Now, from this pencil line right here to this dimension down here, I'm going to turn a flat, straight line from here down to here on both sides. Clear up some waste wood too. It's just in the way. Straight down. Good. Other side. Well, same thing. Let's get rid of this waste wood. So now we have established where our piece is. This now is waste wood here.
we can turn our sphere by simply knocking off these corners and turning down. Now, this could be converted from an octagon into a 16-sided vessel, which then gives you less shaping to do. But right now, I'm going to shape from here to there. Much easier to come around. Other side. So there is the beginning of our sphere. Now all we have to do is to turn this down to a smaller diameter, cut the ends off as we did before, and then put it back to turn away the gouge. I now can take this on down. Both sides, clearing away more waste wood. Be careful not to get it so small that it wants to pop off. And again, we'll cut these off, put it back between the centers, reverse it 90 degrees, and begin to turn away the shadows. So it's another technique for laying out a piece to get it close to being spherical in shape. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you was the making of these fixtures. This is pretty simple. So let's clear the decks, clean up a little bit, and I'll come back and show you how I made the various accessories that got us to this.
Well, we finished it. We've turned some spheres, we've done some practicing. I hope you try the freehand cuts because they do give you a lot of hand-eye coordination, and we can get to yielding things like this. Developing a set of adapters, well, little fingers over here, that allow you to be able to put this between centers and rotate the various axes to take away the shadows will be a real big aid in doing great jobs, no matter whatever the size is. And I hope you give some practice at also trying the mechanical layout technique, which gives you a chance to get closer to the approximation of the shape. I showed you how to do it in an octagonal shape. There is a woodturner named David Reed Smith who has a video on his website, which you might want to check out, that not only allows you to be able to do the octagon, but taking it to the next level of 16 sides. And he's made up a template here, and that's available for download from his site. So what you do is determine the diameter of the piece, use one scale to lay out the octagon, and if you go to 16 sides, there's a scale, I'm sorry, I'm turning it towards me, not towards you, to allow you to lay out the 16 sides. And you can download this and print it. When I printed it on my printer, I found out it was about 1% undersized. So by using a couple of manipulations on the computer, I was able to upscale it. When you print out the template, there is a 2-inch scale on the bottom, which you can measure with your ruler to be sure it's accurate. So it's something that would be an additional aid. The other aids that we had were these centers, the Morris taper, and the one for the one-way or jet live center systems. And I will show you that in a part B of this video. So this one's about turning. The next short one, very short one, will be all about just making the two accessories, which are very easy to do. I didn't go into doing this one, but this is pretty obvious. You just take a piece of wood, glue it onto a live center, grab this portion in your chuck, and then true this up. So if you want to see these accessories, come back and watch the B part, and we'll show you how to do that. But go out in the shop, get some practicing in, stay safe, come back for our next video.